want to quickly show you what we're going to be working on today. This is the final project. This is a 2-page layout, 12 by 12, inspired by Melissa Ullman's video for Creative Memories. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to use this dark green cardstock. This is from Cricut. I've said it before, but Cricut.com has really great paper for very affordable prices, especially if you're a Design Space member and catch it on sale. This particular cardstock comes in this textured design to it, you can see there. And then on the reverse side, it's non-textured. So I'm a big fan of that. I really like the textured design. People may not notice it that much, but I think it adds a little bit of extra flair. So the layout that I'm doing today is based on a video that Melissa Ullman did for Creative Memories, and I will link that video below. But what it was when she did it was a double fold over design. I decided not to do that exactly because I didn't want to waste the extra 4 inches of paper. So she did it where you would have a 12-inch piece of paper, like I'll use this one for example, and then you would fold it over 4 inches and then put it down as such. So I instead went ahead and cut some of these strips. So I'm just going to use 2 4-inch strips instead, so that way I can save that extra 4 inches of paper. So I'm going to do it as such. And this is using the Creative Memories Harvest Delight paper pack. I'm going to use this for my some of my Hobbiton pictures from New Zealand for my honeymoon. So I also went ahead and did some mats for this section. This is also from that same paper pack. And I decided that this would look good. It brings out the colors of those leaves in the back, but also kind of goes off that chevron type design beneath down there. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. And then I just need to cut one more strip off of this 4 inches, and then I'll have another 8 inches of this paper saved to use for something else. So that makes me happy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start assembling this, just the base line out of it, and then I'll come back and we'll add pictures and embellishments and talk about that. So I wanted to show quickly how I'm cutting this. I mentioned that these strips here are 12 by 4. So there'll be 2 of those in the middle, and then I'm leaving 2 inches on the bottom of the page here and 2 inches at the top. Now for my mats, for my photos, I don't want too much of that to show. I mentioned I want this chevron shape to show to kind of mimic this, but I don't want there to be too much pattern and it be overwhelming. So I'm doing these as 3.5 by 3.5 mats. So I'm using my Creative Memories personal trimmer for this, and I just line it up on the 3.5 line. I'm gonna cut this and then swing it around and do my 3.5 inch mats. Super easy. I love this trimmer because it doesn't pull and end up making curved lines at all. And if you're really worried about if you're using a really thick paper, you can actually start, you know, say in the middle here. Like if you're cutting this, you could push it down starting in the middle and then move up and down, and that will help you to keep it extra straight. Okay, so I have those. And then I went ahead on this one. So I've secured this down, the backing down, and I went ahead and put my photo mats on. So if you notice without these photos, that's a lot of pattern going on to me. So that would normally feel strange and overwhelming in my opinion. But since I only left a little bit of space, so I cut these photos at 3.25 by 3.25. So you can see that when these are secured down, there's only gonna be a little bit of that trim around. And I purposely chose a pattern that was, it has that same blue in it, so it picks up on the back, but it's also a lot more white. And so that helps to, I'll try to zoom in a little bit for you. So that helps to really make these pictures kind of pop off the page here. So that's what it's looking like so far. Okay, and so on this one, I also wanted to point out, I have this, back out more, this mat here. So you see I have this large green mat. I think this is like a 24 by 18 perhaps is what this large green one is. And then I have this this darker gray mat here that has all these measurements on it. These are both from Cricut. Really like their stuff, as I've mentioned. And I think Creative Memories, their new self-healing mat, has these measurements like this, but I don't think they're quite this large. The edges are maybe a little bit smaller. I personally really like this Cricut one. That's how I actually put this down. So I will measure it just right up to these corners so it fits just perfectly. And then I'll put my tape on the back of this and see I can line it up right to this 2-inch mark, and it goes right to the 6-inch mark, and then I can make sure on this other side that I'm even. Because it's easy, even when you line it up on one side, say you had a ruler here, to line it up on the 2-inch mark and then it end up being kind of crooked, you know? So it's nice to have it on this mat where I can make sure it matches up on the left side and the right side of that 2-inch mark. So I'm using that for this. And then I also, for this other side, when I secured my mats, I just noticed, like, you know, where my 6-inch mark is here in the middle. And then I lined it up, and then I just, you know, very carefully tried to follow it down. And that way this helps me center these as well. So I just want to point that out, whether you use the Cricut brand or the Creative Memories brand or another brand, I think one of these self-healing mats or any kind of mat that has these measurements on it really helps to make you get really, really even center pages, particularly when you're doing a 2-page layout like this and you want them in the album to lay really perfectly and match up. Okay, another quick trick I wanted to show you is, for instance, on this page, I have these mats right where I want them. I think they're centered really nicely. And so it took me a while to do that. I'm pretty particular, so it took me a while to get these just where I wanted them. So what I've done before, and I think it will be a good thing to do in this situation, is since I'm doing a 2-page layout and I need mats for this other side, is I can actually lay these down on top of this the opposite way, so where the tape would be sticking up. And I wanted to point out too, I carefully rotated these so that they're alternating. I don't know that anybody else would care about that, but you can see there's this half a strip here, and so I kept rotating that just so that it wouldn't be the same every way. So I'm gonna make sure I do this on this side too. So you can see here I have this little narrow strip, so I'm gonna put that facing this way, and then down, and then up here. So then I'm gonna put my tape on the back of these. I'm going to make sure they're lined up right on top of this, really carefully. Okay, so I have those lined up just how I want them, and I know that takes time too, but if you saw how much time it took me to get the other ones on, I think you'll see that for me that's a time saver. I'm going to lay this top one down really carefully, line it up just perfectly on the edge. And then just kind of roll it down on top and then rub it. And now, I think that's pretty darn good. I have these secured. They're just exactly in the same place as on this side. So you can see that matches up perfectly. Really, I mean, I don't think I could get it any better than that. So, to me, that was a time saver. I don't know if it would be for you, but just an extra tip. So I have these laid out, and I have these two at the bottom. I wanted them to match up spacing wise with these at the top. So as I mentioned, these mats up here are 3.5 by 3.5, and the photos are 3.25 by 3.25. These smaller photos up here. So 3.5 by 3.5 and 3.25 by 3.25 the photos. So down here, I started out doing decent math and then messed up. So I want to show you how I'm going to fix that. So I figured out that there's about 1/2 inch of space, give or take, and so I just calculated that out. 3.5 tall, 5.25 wide is what I ended up doing, and I think that that sits nicely here. So what I messed up on was then calculating how small to cut my photo, and you can see I cut off too much. So I wanted to show you how I'm going to fix that. So I'm just going to turn these So I have them matched up here. That's how it should be. I'm just going to turn them over, line it up perfectly, and then take my tape and run right along that seam. So I just tape that seam. Then I'm going to come and make sure I do the edges and pull it tight, because otherwise those little edges will flap. Okay, so now I'll tape the rest of this, and then I'll put it on the mat. Okay, and so I think that that turned out well. You can, if you catch the light just right, I'm bending it here so you can really see it. You can see that crack, but down on the page, you'd be hard pressed to notice that. And absolutely, when you have it in your album and you have a page cover over this, no one is gonna see that. You just have to be really careful to make sure you line it up just perfectly. But other than that, don't worry if you cut a picture too short, you can always fix it that way. So I have these down now. If you'll notice, if you've seen Melissa's video, I'm doing mine, the layout a little bit differently. I did not do a journaling box in this bottom section. Instead, I'm making use of all these photos because I have so many photos from this trip. I'm actually going to use this bottom space here for my journaling and this top space for my title, I believe is what I'm going to do. So I'm gonna put these down and play with a little bit more, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about how to wrap it up. So here is the finished product minus the title, and I haven't added journaling yet. So what I ended up doing was taking, it was great, the back of this paper, which is what I use for my mats, happens to be this lined light blue. So I was like, well, that's great. It matches the color perfectly with this set, and it's already a line for me to write in. So I went ahead and did that. But I wondered, I didn't want to add journaling on the whole bottom here because there's no way I was going to write that much. I just know myself. And so I was like, well, I want to add something else. And I had these little, all of 5 of these pieces were from one photo, and it was the picture of a billboard here in Hobbiton that had little mock-up advertisements. So corn harvest, they're looking for corn pickers, and a cooper is wanted to make barrels. And then over here, barrels for sale, someone lost their hammer, and then fresh eggs. And I just thought that was the cutest sign, but I wasn't sure how to incorporate it into this layout or even the scrapbook as a whole. So I was like, well, I'll cut these out with my Creative Memories custom cutting system. I use the smallest circle, and the outline, the blue outline is this red blade, and I cut the photos out with this green blade. And then I stuck those down there. I thought that was a perfect way to incorporate those and fill in some of the space at the bottom. And I also added a sheep because Hobbiton is built on a sheep farm. That's where they actually built the set. And so the sheep are now fenced out of the tourist area, but there's still sheep all in the hills and everything. So I thought that was an appropriate addition. So what I'll do now is add this into my scrapbook, and then what I typically do is I will do my titles as the very last thing, as in like when I'm finishing my scrapbook entirely. So I do almost all of my titles by using my Cricut. That's my main use for my Cricut, is to cut titles out. And so what I'll do when I'm getting toward the end of my scrapbook is I'll spend a whole day just typing in titles, testing fonts, and then actually cutting those out and applying them to my pages. So that will be what's next, but this is my final project. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I didn't add too many embellishments. I did add a word here. So this says fun, and it has an antique camera, and this says adventure, and it has a passport. And these stickers came from the new Echo Park Scenic Route sticker book, which I highly recommend if you're a traveler. There's a lot of great stuff in there. I didn't want to add too much though. There's a lot of pattern in this paper. These small pictures here at the bottom almost work as an embellishment, plus the sheep stickers. I didn't want to overwhelm it. And then I like to do ornate font titles, so that'll be an attractor for your eye as it is. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.